A chance encounter. The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden rays across the bustling airport terminal. To most, it was just another day filled with business trips and family reunions, but to Robert Reynolds, today felt like the weight of the world rested squarely on his shoulders. He navigated through the throngs of travelers, each person wrapped in their own stories and struggles. For Robert, a middle-aged man with a graying beard and deep lines etched into his forehead, every step echoed the turbulence of his life. A recent divorce, a job loss, and a heart weighed down by loneliness. As he approached the boarding gate for Flight 227, a chill of unease crept over him. He could hear snippets of laughter from families and groups of friends, reminding him of his own solitude. With a sigh, he leaned against the wall, wishing the ground would swallow him whole. He adjusted his worn-out jacket, a futile attempt to make himself feel more presentable. He had lost track of time, staring into the distance, contemplating the series of misfortunes that had led him here. Just then, he noticed a young girl with dark skin and tight curls, no older than 13, standing alone near the gate. Her wide eyes scanned the crowd, searching for someone or something. Her name was Amara Johnson, and she was about to board her first flight alone to visit her father in a different state. Unlike Robert, Amara radiated an innocent hopefulness, a beacon amidst the dull chaos of the airport. But beneath her cheerful exterior, she too carried burdens. Her parents had split up, and she was caught in the middle of their tension. Robert watched as Amara fiddled with her backpack, occasionally glancing at her watch. He could sense her nervousness, the way she bit her lip and tapped her foot impatiently against the ground. In that moment, he felt a pang of empathy. He remembered being young and excited about the world, before the responsibilities of adulthood had dulled his spirit. As the boarding announcement rang through the terminal, Robert made a decision. He walked over to Amara, mustering the courage he thought he had lost. "Hey there," he said gently, trying to offer a reassuring smile. "Are you heading somewhere special?" Amara turned to him, her face lighting up with surprise. "I'm going to see my dad. He lives in another state now, and I can't wait to see him." "Have you ever flown before?" Her enthusiasm was contagious, and for a fleeting moment, Robert felt a flicker of the excitement he once had. "I have, a long time ago," he replied, leaning against the wall beside her. "It's quite an adventure." They talked as they waited to board, sharing snippets of their lives. Amara's laughter echoed around them, breaking through Robert's somber thoughts. He learned that she was passionate about art and dreamed of becoming a graphic designer, despite the challenges of being a young black girl in a world that often undermined her abilities. As they boarded the plane, Robert felt an unusual sense of protectiveness over Amara. He knew that her journey was fraught with the same societal pressures he had faced throughout his life. The vibrant energy of youth reminded him of his own dreams and aspirations that had dimmed over time. As they took their seats, he noticed a man across the aisle who shot them a disapproving glare. The man, in his late 40s with a thick build, seemed agitated by Amara's presence. Robert felt a tension rise in the air as they settled in, the flight attendants bustling around to prepare for takeoff. "Don't worry, Amara," Robert said, attempting to ease the growing anxiety. "Just enjoy the ride and think about all the wonderful things you'll do with your dad." But as the plane prepared for takeoff, the atmosphere shifted. The man across the aisle began to mumble under his breath, loud enough for those around to hear. "Why do they let kids like her on a plane alone?" He sneered, a cruel smile dancing on his lips. Amara's face fell, confusion and fear mingling in her eyes. Robert's heart sank as he recognized the familiar pang of discrimination that had haunted his life. It was the same kind of cruelty that had shaped his own experiences, leaving scars he thought he had buried deep within. He could feel the tension escalating around them, like a storm about to break. "Excuse me," Robert said, his voice steady yet firm. "That's a child you're talking about. She has every right to be here, just like anyone else." The man turned to Robert, his expression hardening. "What's it to you? She doesn't belong here. This isn't a daycare," he shot back, his voice dripping with disdain. Robert took a deep breath, fighting the urge to lash out. We're all just trying to get somewhere. Can't we keep the negativity to ourselves? The confrontation escalated quickly. The man's arrogance and bitterness spilled over as he spat out racial slurs, each word cutting deeper than the last. The tension in the cabin grew thicker, and the whispers of disbelief spread like wildfire among the passengers. Amara shrank into her seat, her eyes wide with fear. In that moment, Robert felt a surge of protectiveness flood through him. He couldn't let this man's hatred win. He wouldn't stand by and let Amara bear the brunt of such ignorance. He decided to stand firm, knowing that this was a chance to teach both Amara and himself something about courage, empathy, and the fight against racism. "Your ignorance is showing," Robert replied, his voice rising above the noise of the cabin. "What you're doing is wrong, and it needs to stop. This girl is just trying to see her father. You don't have to like it, but you must respect it." The man's face turned crimson as Robert's words hung in the air, leaving the cabin in stunned silence. Reflection. As the confrontation unfolded, Robert felt an unexpected weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time in years, he realized that standing up against injustice not only empowered others, but also rekindled the flame of hope within himself. Amara was more than just a girl on a plane. She represented the future, the change he longed to see in the world. He glanced over at her, seeing her bravery reflected in the courage she showed by simply being herself. She was not just a victim. She was a testament to resilience and hope. In that fleeting moment, amidst the chaos of the world, Robert understood that his journey was far from over. As they soared through the clouds, he felt the winds of change begin to lift him, guiding him towards a new beginning. Turbulence in the skies. As the plane ascended into the sky, the soft hum of the engines enveloped the cabin, drowning out the echoes of the earlier confrontation. Robert glanced at Amara, who was still visibly shaken by the man's hurtful words. Her fingers nervously traced the pattern on her backpack, and for a moment, he worried that the ordeal would overshadow her excitement about the journey ahead. "Hey, Amara," he said gently, leaning closer. "Do you want to talk about it? Or maybe we could distract ourselves with something fun." She looked up at him, her big brown eyes shimmering with tears that threatened to spill over. I don't understand why he had to say those things," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just a kid. I didn't do anything wrong." Robert felt a surge of empathy wash over him, the weight of their shared experience binding them in that moment. "I know it's hard to understand, but sometimes people are hurtful for reasons that have nothing to do with you," he said, searching for the right words. "It's not about you, it's about them. They're carrying their own burdens, and they lash out because they don't know how to deal with them." Amara nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful, but still troubled. "But it's not fair. Why do people have to be like that?" "Fairness isn't always how the world works," Robert replied, "but we can choose how we respond to it. It's our choices that define us, not the actions of others." He hoped his words would provide her some comfort, but he was also trying to convince himself. The truth was, he had spent far too many years letting the cruelty of others dictate his own happiness. The plane leveled off at cruising altitude, and the cabin lights dimmed as the flight attendants began their service. As trays of snacks and drinks were distributed, Robert decided to lighten the mood. "How about we start a game?" he suggested, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Let's see who can come up with the most interesting story about where we're going." Amara's brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" "I mean, let's make up wild tales about our destination," he explained. "For example, I'm convinced that my destination is a land where everyone speaks in rhymes, and the trees grow candy instead of fruit. What do you think? Can you top that?" A small smile broke through Amara's earlier tension, and she laughed, her laughter brightening the cabin. "Okay, let's see. My place is a kingdom where all the kids can fly, and they have to defeat a dragon to earn their wings." "I love it. Now that's an adventure worth taking." Robert said, feeling the atmosphere shift as they both started to relax. As they continued to invent fantastical tales about their destination, Robert felt a sense of camaraderie developing between them. Amara's spirit, once dimmed by the earlier incident, began to shine again, her laughter echoing through the cabin like music. Yet, the dark shadow of the man's words still loomed in the background. Robert's mind began to wander, reflecting on his own life's journey, a path marred by moments of defeat, self-doubt, and regrets. He had allowed society's harsh judgments and his own insecurities to cage him, limiting his potential for far too long. The man's prejudice had rekindled a fire within him, one he hadn't felt in years. He realized that he had the power to choose his reaction, not only to others' cruelty, but to the circumstances life threw at him. Just as Amara was navigating her own fears, he was reminded that everyone was on their own journey, filled with unique struggles and triumphs. Suddenly, the plane hit a patch of turbulence, jolting Robert from his thoughts. Gasps filled the cabin as the fasten seatbelt sign illuminated. Amara's eyes widened with fear, and instinctively, Robert reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "It's okay, Amara. Just hold on. It's all part of the adventure." Her grip tightened around his, and he could feel the warmth of her small hand in contrast to his larger, calloused one. "What if we crash?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "We won't," he assured her, projecting calmness he didn't fully feel. Turbulence is like a roller coaster. It can be scary, but the pilots know how to handle it. Just think of it as a part of the ride. Amara nodded, trying to absorb his reassurance, and they both focused on breathing deeply. As the plane shook and swayed, Robert felt a strange sense of connection between him and Amara, between their struggles, and even with the pilot navigating the skies. It was a shared experience, reminding him that even in turbulence, one could find solace and strength in community. Finally, after a few tense moments, the turbulence subsided. The cabin crew resumed their service, and the passengers settled back into their seats. Amara looked at Robert, her eyes wide with curiosity. "What's it like to be a grown-up?" she asked suddenly, her innocent curiosity catching him off guard. Robert chuckled, realizing how profound her question was. "Well, it's a mix of good and bad," he began, reflecting on the truth of his own experiences. "There are days filled with joy and accomplishment, and then there are days that test your strength and resilience. But it's all part of the journey. Just like this flight, there will be ups and downs." "What do you mean by that?" Amara pressed, leaning closer, eager to learn. "Life can be unpredictable," he explained. "Sometimes you'll face challenges that seem insurmountable, but if you keep pushing forward and stay true to yourself, you can overcome them. Each experience shapes who you are and helps you grow." Amara nodded, absorbing his words like a sponge. "So, what if someone is mean to you? What do you do then?" Robert paused, thinking carefully. "You stand up for yourself, just like I did today. You don't let their words define you. You stay strong and remember your worth. Surround yourself with people who lift you up and support you." "But what if they don't listen?" she pressed, her brow furrowed in thought. "Sometimes people won't listen, and that's okay," he said, choosing his words carefully. "You can't control how others behave, but you can control how you respond. And remember, it's important to have a voice, even if it feels like no one is listening. Your voice matters." Their conversation flowed seamlessly as they explored the complexities of life together, a dynamic that transcended their age gap. Robert found himself sharing his dreams, his struggles with identity, and his hopes for the future, while Amara opened up about her aspirations as an artist and the challenges she faced in a world that often underestimated her abilities. As the plane soared through the clouds, Robert felt a renewed sense of purpose, a connection to Amara that stirred a deep-rooted desire to protect and empower her. He wanted to be a mentor, a guiding light in her journey, just as he wished someone had been for him during his own turbulent times. Suddenly, a voice interrupted their conversation. It was the flight attendant, who had just completed her rounds, and noticed the unusual camaraderie between the two. "Is everything okay over here?" she asked, a warm smile spreading across her face. "Yes," Amara chirped, her earlier fears forgotten. "We're just having an adventure." The flight attendant chuckled, her eyes twinkling. "That's the spirit. If you need anything, just let me know. We want to make sure your journey is as pleasant as possible." As she walked away, Robert felt a sense of pride swell within him. It was moments like these that reminded him of the beauty of human connection. The flight was more than just a means to an end. It was a journey of self-discovery, growth, and resilience. With Amara by his side, he felt a newfound responsibility, not just to protect her from the darkness of the world, but to encourage her to embrace her identity and pursue her dreams fiercely. This unexpected encounter on Flight 227 had transformed into a pivotal moment, illuminating a path of hope and redemption that he never anticipated. As they continued to share their stories and dreams, Robert realized that their connection transcended the airplane and its confines. It was a bond forged in adversity, reminding him that even amidst turbulence, there was always the potential for growth, connection, and inspiration. Little did they know, the challenges that lay ahead would test their newfound resolve and strength, forcing them to confront the realities of the world outside the confines of the airplane. But for now, as the clouds parted and the sun bathed them in golden light, they were united in hope and possibility. Two souls on a journey toward self-discovery, resilience, and the fight for acceptance in a world that often struggled to embrace diversity. Reflection. Part 2 showcases the powerful bond formed between Robert and Amara amid their shared struggles. Their conversation opens a window into the complexities of human experiences, revealing themes of resilience, hope, and the importance of standing up against injustice. Confronting shadows. As Flight 227 cruised through the sky, the cabin became a tapestry of shared stories, laughter, and the clinking of trays. Amara and Robert had settled into a comfortable rhythm, their earlier fears dissolving into a friendship that felt both unexpected and refreshing. It was as if the turbulence of life had thrust them together, forging a connection that neither of them had anticipated. After a while, the cabin crew came around with refreshments, and Robert handed Amara a juice box with a grin. "This is the best part of flying," he said, taking a sip of his own drink. "It's like having a little treat in the clouds." Amara giggled, her earlier worries seeming a distant memory. "Do you think I can draw a picture of the clouds? I want to show my dad how fluffy they look." "That's a fantastic idea," Robert encouraged, watching as she pulled out a small sketchbook from her backpack. "What else are you going to draw?" "I want to draw a castle in the clouds," Amara said with excitement. "And maybe a dragon too, like the one we talked about before." Robert smiled as she began to sketch, her pencil flying across the pages with a confidence that inspired him. The girl was incredibly talented, and watching her pour her imagination onto the paper was mesmerizing. With each stroke of the pencil, she brought her dreams to life, depicting vibrant worlds that defied the limitations of reality. As Amara lost herself in her art, Robert's thoughts drifted back to his own childhood. He remembered the innocence of dreaming big, a time before life's disappointments weighed him down. There was a time when he believed he could do anything, become an astronaut, a rock star, or even a superhero. But with every year that passed, those dreams were buried under the weight of responsibility and societal expectations. He wished he could relive those moments, reignite that spark of creativity and ambition he once had. The cabin was mostly silent, save for the soft hum of conversation around them. But just as Robert began to feel a sense of calm, the man from earlier, a dark cloud on an otherwise bright day, re-entered his thoughts. Despite the man's words echoing in his mind, Robert pushed the negativity aside, determined not to let it overshadow the budding friendship with Amara. "Hey, Amara," he called, interrupting her concentration. "Can I tell you something?" "Sure," she replied, glancing up with a curious smile, pencil poised over her drawing. "When I was your age, I loved to draw too," he admitted, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. "I would spend hours sketching my favorite superheroes and inventing stories about them. It was like creating my own world where anything was possible." Her eyes widened with wonder. "Really? What did you draw?" "Oh, all sorts of things. I drew spaceships, monsters, and sometimes even my own comic strips. But I stopped drawing when I got older," Robert confessed, feeling a pang of regret. "Life got busy, and I lost the time to create." "Why? You should start again," Amara exclaimed, her enthusiasm bubbling over. "It's never too late, you know." "You might be right," Robert mused, a smile creeping onto his face. "Maybe I'll take it up again one day." Suddenly, the plane jolted, hitting another pocket of turbulence. The overhead lights flickered, and a few gasps filled the cabin. Amara's grip on her pencil tightened, and she looked up at Robert, fear etched across her face. "It's okay, Amara," he reassured her, instinctively reaching out to hold her hand again. "It's just some bumps in the sky. We're safe." The turbulence lasted only a moment, but it served as a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of life. Robert thought of the man who had confronted them earlier, the one whose bitterness had cast a shadow over their journey. It was easy to let the negativity of others overshadow one's happiness. In that moment, Robert resolved that he would not allow it to derail their friendship or Amara's enthusiasm for life. Once the plane stabilized, Amara took a deep breath, visibly relaxing. "Can I draw you too?" she asked, her voice returning to its cheerful lilt. "Me?" Robert laughed, a bit surprised. "What would you draw?" "I want to capture your superhero side," she replied, her eyes sparkling with creativity. "You stood up to that mean man. You're like a superhero." Robert felt a rush of warmth at her words, touched by her perception of him. "All right, just promise you'll make me look cool," he said with a grin. As she began to sketch him, Robert found himself lost in thought once more. Amara's belief in his strength challenged him to embrace a version of himself he had long buried. The spark of confidence he felt in her presence reminded him that he was more than just a passenger on a flight. He was capable of making a difference, even in small ways. The plane continued its course, and the sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting a warm glow across the cabin. Amara diligently sketched away, her pencil moving swiftly across the page, while Robert glanced out the window, watching the clouds drift by. Each fluffy formation reminded him of the stories he once crafted as a child. As he sat there, immersed in the moment, the plane suddenly hit another patch of turbulence. This time, the shaking was more pronounced, and the passengers around them began to murmur in unease. The flight attendants hurriedly secured their carts and moved down the aisles, their faces taut with professionalism despite the turbulence. Robert felt Amara's hand tighten around his, her expression mirroring her fear. "What if we crash?" she whispered again, her voice trembling. He turned to her, his heart racing. "Listen, Amara, remember what we talked about. Sometimes things get shaky, but we're in good hands. The pilots are trained for this, and they've been flying for years." Amara nodded but still looked frightened. "But what if they don't know what to do?" "Sometimes we don't know what to do," Robert said, his voice steadying. "But we have to trust ourselves and those around us, and we can't let fear keep us from dreaming and living our lives." The turbulence intensified, rattling the cabin and eliciting gasps from the other passengers. Robert's heart raced, but he was determined to remain calm for Amara. He could feel the tension mounting, and he knew that fear could be contagious. He took a deep breath and decided to redirect their focus. "Let's make a deal," he said, leaning closer to Amara. "Whenever we hit a bump like this, we'll tell a funny story to distract ourselves. I'll go first. When I was in college, I tried to impress a girl by cooking dinner. Long story short, I ended up burning the pasta and setting off the fire alarm." Amara giggled, the sound breaking through the tension. "What did you do?" I had to run outside in my pajamas while the fire department showed up. He laughed, picturing the scene. I think that was the last time I attempted to cook anything. With a twinkle in her eye, Amara responded, I bet that girl didn't want to date you anymore. Robert chuckled. You'd be surprised. She thought it was funny. Sometimes the things that go wrong turn out to be the best stories. As the turbulence began to subside, Robert and Amara continued to share silly anecdotes, laughter rising above the previous fear. The cabin around them slowly relaxed, and soon enough, the pilot's voice came over the intercom, reassuring the passengers that they were through the rough patch. The flight attendants resumed their service, moving with the grace of seasoned professionals, further soothing the lingering tension. Finally, as the plane settled into smooth air, Robert felt the weight of fear lift from Amara's shoulders. She looked at him, her eyes shining with gratitude. Thank you, Robert. You make this feel a lot less scary, she said, her voice filled with warmth. It's my pleasure, he replied, feeling a swell of pride. You're braver than you know. Remember, even in the scariest moments, you have the power to find joy and laughter. As they continued to navigate the skies, their connection deepened, intertwining their stories in a way that felt serendipitous. Robert realized that he was no longer just a passive observer in Amara's journey. He was an active participant in shaping her experience, and in turn, she was helping him rediscover parts of himself he had long since abandoned. As they settled into the calm of the flight, Robert reflected on the lessons of the day. He realized that standing up for what was right was not just a momentary act of courage, it was a commitment to living authentically. He was learning to embrace the complexities of life, the challenges, and the unexpected joys that came with each experience. The flight continued smoothly, and Amara finished her sketch of Robert as a superhero, complete with a cape and an exaggerated heroic pose. There, you look amazing, she declared, holding up the page for him to see. He couldn't help but laugh, feeling a mixture of embarrassment and gratitude. That's the best drawing I've ever seen. You have incredible talent, Amara. Thank you. She beamed, her cheeks flushed with pride. I can't wait to show my dad. I hope he likes it. I'm sure he will. And you know what? This is just the beginning of your adventure. You're going to make amazing art and stories. Robert encouraged her, realizing the importance of nurturing her talents and dreams. As the flight began its descent, Robert felt a bittersweet pang in his chest. Their time together was coming to an end, but he knew that their journey would not be forgotten. This encounter had ignited a spark of hope in him, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, connection and creativity could thrive. As the airplane landed safely on the tarmac, Amara's laughter echoed in his ears, a melody he would carry with him long after they parted ways. The moment they disembarked, he watched her skip ahead, her sketchbook clutched tightly against her chest as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. Robert knew that he had been changed by this flight. The experience reminded him of the beauty of connection, the importance of standing up against injustice, and the power of art to heal and inspire. As he walked through the terminal, he resolved to embrace his own dreams once again, to create, to laugh, and to inspire others as Amara had inspired him. And while he couldn't erase the scars of the past, he could choose to shape his future, one bold stroke of the pencil at a time. The weight of words. As they disembarked from the plane, Amara and Robert stepped into the bustling airport terminal, where the sounds of rolling suitcases and chattering passengers filled the air. Robert could feel the adrenaline from the flight still coursing through him, blending with the excitement of their newfound friendship. They walked side by side, but Robert couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had lingered since their encounter with the man who had hurled his racist remarks at Amara. They passed a small cafe where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, drawing Amara's attention. "Can we get something to drink?" she asked, her eyes lighting up at the thought of a warm beverage. "Of course," Robert replied with a smile. "What do you want?" "I'd like a hot chocolate, please," she exclaimed, practically bouncing on her feet. As they approached the counter, Robert noticed the barista, a young woman with colorful tattoos and a bright smile, who greeted them warmly. "What can I get for you today?" "One hot chocolate and a coffee, please," Robert ordered, handing over his card. As he waited, he glanced down at Amara, who was staring intently at the menu board, her expression filled with wonder. "Can I also get a chocolate croissant?" Amara asked, her voice hopeful. "Sure, why not?" Robert chuckled. "You deserve a treat after all that drawing and flying." When they received their drinks and croissant, they found a small table by the window. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the terminal. Amara took a sip of her hot chocolate and grinned. "This is amazing." "Thank you, Robert." He watched her, feeling the warmth in his chest that had been absent for too long. Amara's joy was infectious, and he found himself smiling without even realizing it. "I'm glad you like it. You know, this is the best part of flying. Getting to explore new places and try new things." "Yeah, and making new friends," she added, her eyes sparkling. "You're my first friend on a plane." Robert's heart swelled at her words. In this chaotic world, they had formed an unlikely bond, and he was grateful for it. "You know, Amara, you have a gift for making people feel special," he said, raising his cup in a toast. "To new friendships." "To new friendships," Amara echoed, clinking her cup against his before taking another sip of her drink. But as they chatted, the memory of the man's words crept back into Robert's mind. He couldn't shake the feeling of anger that had bubbled within him. "Amara, can I ask you something?" he began, feeling the weight of the conversation pressing on him. "Sure. What's on your mind?" she replied, her attention fully on him. "What that man said earlier, how did it make you feel?" he asked gently, unsure of how she might respond. Amara's expression shifted, and for a moment, Robert saw the flicker of hurt in her eyes. "It made me feel small," she admitted quietly, "like I didn't belong." Robert's heart ached for her. "You do belong, Amara, more than anyone else. That man doesn't define who you are." "I know," she replied, her voice stronger now. "But sometimes, it's hard to remember that when someone says something mean. It's like it sticks to you." "Like glue," Robert nodded, empathizing with her struggle. "I get that. People can be cruel for no reason, and it's frustrating. But you know what? You have the power to rewrite those words. You can choose to let them go and focus on the good." "How do I do that?" she asked, her brow furrowing in thought. "You keep creating," he said, gesturing to her sketchbook. "Every time you draw, every time you express yourself, you're showing the world who you really are. You're powerful, Amara. Don't let anyone take that away from you." Amara considered his words, her eyes brightening as a smile crept back onto her face. "You're right. I can just draw them away." "Exactly," Robert encouraged, feeling the surge of pride. "You're an artist, and art is a powerful way to share your story and your truth. Just like superheroes stand up for what's right, you can use your art to inspire others." The young girl's enthusiasm returned as she picked up her sketchbook, flipping through the pages filled with drawings of whimsical castles and fantastical creatures. "I want to draw superheroes who stand up for people like me," she said, her voice filled with determination. "People who are brave and kind." "Now you're talking," Robert cheered, leaning in to look at her sketches. "I'd love to see that. You know, there's a quote I love that says, 'Art is the most beautiful of all lies.' It means that through your drawings, you can create a world where anything is possible." "Wow, I want to create a world where everyone feels safe and happy," Amara said, her eyes sparkling with inspiration. "That's a beautiful goal, Amara, and you can start right now," Robert encouraged, feeling the weight of the world lift off his shoulders. "Just remember, it's okay to feel hurt or sad, but don't let those feelings hold you back. Use them to fuel your creativity. Like a superpower, she exclaimed, her face lighting up. "I'll turn my sadness into art." "Yes, exactly," Robert affirmed, a sense of hope washing over him. "And if you ever feel scared or unsure, just remember that you have friends who care about you. You're never alone in this." As they continued to talk, Amara's laughter filled the air, pushing away the shadows of the past. Their conversation transformed the cafe into a sanctuary of friendship, a refuge from the harsh realities of the outside world. Robert felt rejuvenated, his spirit lifted by her unwavering optimism and creativity. But as they finished their drinks and prepared to leave, a familiar figure entered the cafe. It was the man who had confronted them earlier. His presence loomed large, and Robert's heart sank at the sight of him. He felt a rush of anger rise within him, and the warmth of their earlier conversation began to dim. "Stay close to me, okay?" Robert whispered to Amara, his protective instincts kicking in. Amara nodded, sensing the change in his demeanor. "Is it him?" "Yeah," Robert replied, clenching his jaw. "But we don't have to let him ruin our day. Just stick together." The man approached the counter, oblivious to their presence as he ordered a drink. Robert could feel the tension in the air, and he fought the urge to confront him again. Instead, he focused on Amara, who was intently observing the situation with wide eyes. "Let's step outside for a moment," he suggested, wanting to shield her from any negativity. They exited the cafe and found a quieter spot in the terminal, where the bustle of passengers was muffled. "Robert, are you okay?" Amara asked, her voice laced with concern. "I'm fine," he replied, trying to calm himself. "It's just, sometimes people are really hurtful. But remember what we talked about. You have the power to rise above it." Amara nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I don't want him to make me feel small again." "You won't let him," Robert affirmed, putting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're stronger than you know. Just like in your drawings, you can create a shield against negativity." Amara smiled, a flicker of determination shining in her eyes. "I'll draw that. A shield made of art." "Exactly," Robert encouraged, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "And remember, your art has the power to uplift others too. You can inspire them to find their own strength." As they stood there, Amara took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "I want to be brave," she declared, her voice steady. "I don't want to let that man or anyone else take away my happiness." "That's the spirit," Robert cheered, his heart swelling with pride. "You're already being brave just by standing up for yourself. And together, we can create a world where kindness wins." With that, they turned to re-enter the bustling terminal, side by side, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The man was still at the counter, but Robert focused on Amara, ready to support her as they navigated their way through the crowd. As they walked past the cafe, Robert caught the man's eye, and for a moment, their gazes locked. Robert felt a surge of defiance. He refused to allow this man's negativity to overshadow the joy he had found in his friendship with Amara. "Keep your head up, Amara," Robert whispered, squeezing her hand gently. "We're on a mission to spread kindness and creativity." Amara smiled brightly, her confidence bolstered. "Yeah, let's show everyone how powerful art can be." With that, they continued on their journey, leaving the shadows behind and embracing the light of friendship, creativity, and resilience that lay ahead. A canvas of courage. As they exited the airport terminal, Amara and Robert stepped into the cool evening air, a refreshing change from the bustling atmosphere inside. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, a breathtaking backdrop for their newfound friendship and the journey they were embarking on together. Robert felt a wave of inspiration wash over him as they walked to the nearby park, where the world felt just a little bit brighter. "Do you come here often?" Amara asked, glancing around the park filled with laughter, children playing, and families enjoying the evening. "Not really," Robert admitted, "but I think I will now. It seems like the perfect place to draw." Amara's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Can we find a spot to sketch?" I want to create the biggest superhero I can imagine. Absolutely. Let's find a good spot, he replied, leading her toward a shaded area beneath a large oak tree, its branches swaying gently in the evening breeze. They settled on the grass, and Robert watched as Amara pulled out her sketchbook and colored pencils, ready to bring her ideas to life. As she began to draw, Robert marveled at her talent. Her lines flowed effortlessly, capturing the essence of her imaginative world. He took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought them together, realizing how profoundly this day had impacted him. It wasn't just about standing up against prejudice. It was about rediscovering joy through creativity and connection. "What kind of superhero are you drawing?" Robert asked, genuinely curious. Amara looked up, her eyes wide with enthusiasm. "She's going to be the strongest superhero ever. She's going to help people feel safe and happy. And she'll have the power to turn sadness into joy." "That sounds incredible. What will her name be?" Robert prompted. "Her name is Joyful Heart," Amara exclaimed, her face lighting up. "She'll have a heart on her chest that glows whenever she spreads kindness." "I love it. Joyful Heart sounds like a superhero we all need," Robert said, feeling a warmth in his chest. Amara continued sketching, her concentration intense. As she worked, Robert pulled out his phone to capture the moment. He snapped a picture of her in the golden light, her brow furrowed in concentration, the sketchbook propped on her knees. It was a snapshot of pure inspiration, a moment that represented hope and resilience. "You're a fantastic artist, Amara," he said, setting his phone down. "I can't wait to see Joyful Heart in all her glory." "Thanks, Robert," she replied, her cheeks flushing with pride. "I want to draw a whole comic book about her." "Now that's a brilliant idea. You should definitely do it," he encouraged. "Maybe we can even help each other. I could help you write the story." Amara's eyes widened in excitement. "Yes, we can make it together." They spent the next hour sketching and brainstorming ideas for Joyful Heart, sharing stories of their own experiences and how they could weave them into the superhero's narrative. Robert found himself opening up more than he had in years, sharing his dreams of writing and creating. He felt a connection to Amara that went beyond friendship, a shared understanding of resilience and the power of dreams. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the park, Robert noticed a group of teenagers nearby, laughing and taking selfies. For a moment, he felt a twinge of nostalgia, recalling his own teenage years, filled with dreams and camaraderie. But then the memory of the racist man's words intruded again, and Robert felt a wave of anger rise within him. "What's wrong?" Amara asked, looking up from her sketchbook, sensing his sudden shift in mood. I hate that people can be so cruel," he confessed, his voice laced with frustration. "It feels like no matter how much progress we make, there are always those who try to drag us down." Amara paused, her pencil hovering above the page. "But we can fight back with our art, right? We can show them that love and kindness are stronger than hate." "Yes, you're right," Robert said, taking a deep breath. "We can use our creativity to change the narrative. Your Joyful Heart can inspire others to stand up for what's right, just like you did today." Amara's eyes sparkled with determination. "And if I can make even one person feel special, then it's worth it." Robert felt a swell of pride. "You're already doing that. Just by being you, you inspire people to be better. Your art can create ripples of change." As they continued to sketch, Robert felt the weight of the world lifting off his shoulders. He realized that through Amara, he was finding his own voice again. Her youthful optimism reignited a fire within him, reminding him that it was never too late to dream big and fight for what mattered. As the sky darkened and stars began to twinkle overhead, Amara finished her sketch of Joyful Heart. "Look, Robert," she exclaimed, holding up the page for him to see. "What do you think?" The character was a vibrant depiction of strength and joy, with a glowing heart on her chest and a determined expression on her face. Robert was taken aback by the sheer power of her creation. She's amazing. You've captured her spirit perfectly. Do you think I can really do this? Write and draw my own comic book? Amara asked, her voice filled with hope and uncertainty. Absolutely. You have a unique voice, and your story deserves to be told, Robert assured her. And I'll be right here to help you every step of the way. Thank you, Robert, Amara said, her eyes shining with gratitude. I never thought I'd find someone who believes in me like this. Of course. You deserve all the support you can get, he replied, feeling a sense of fulfillment in his heart. And just remember, there will always be challenges along the way, but that doesn't mean you can't overcome them. As they packed up their things, Robert's mind buzzed with ideas of how they could bring Joyful Heart to life. They could start a blog to share their progress, create social media accounts to connect with other young artists, and even organize workshops for kids to explore their creativity. The possibilities were endless, and he felt invigorated by the thought of it. Let's make a plan, Amara declared, her enthusiasm contagious. We can meet every week to work on our ideas. I love that, Robert replied, feeling the excitement swell within him. We'll create a community of artists and friends who uplift one another. As they walked back toward the terminal, Robert felt a sense of purpose and belonging that had eluded him for years. He was no longer just a flight attendant or a man burdened by the scars of his past. He was a mentor, a friend, and an advocate for creativity, and he was determined to stand alongside Amara as they inspired others to do the same. Robert, Amara's voice broke through his thoughts. Yeah. Can I tell you a secret? Of course, he replied, intrigued. I was really scared when that man said those things, she admitted, her voice quiet. But you made me feel brave. I didn't want to let him win. You didn't, he said, his heart swelling with pride for her bravery. You chose to rise above it, and that's something that will always define you. They reached the entrance of the airport, and Amara looked up at him, her expression serious yet hopeful. Can we promise to always lift each other up? Absolutely, Robert said, extending his pinky finger toward her. Pinky promise. Amara wrapped her pinky around his, sealing their promise with a smile. Pinky promise. As they parted ways, Robert felt a renewed sense of purpose. The struggles they faced didn't define them. Their response to those struggles did. He walked away from the airport that evening, knowing that he had found a kindred spirit in Amara, and that together they would create a world where kindness and creativity reigned. The power of creation. As the days turned into weeks, Robert and Amara met regularly in the park, sketching and brainstorming ideas for their comic book, Joyful Heart. The project had become a beacon of inspiration for both of them, a way to channel their experiences and aspirations into something tangible. They transformed their meetings into creative workshops, inviting other children and young artists from the community to join in. The park was soon filled with laughter, creativity, and a sense of belonging. Amara's enthusiasm was infectious. She began to develop her characters further, each one representing a unique trait: courage, kindness, resilience, and creativity. With Robert's guidance, she wove her personal experiences and the lessons she had learned into the narratives. Each superhero had their own struggles, echoing the challenges they faced in real life, yet they emerged stronger, united in their mission to spread love and positivity. One sunny afternoon, as they sat beneath their favorite oak tree, Amara sketched furiously, her brow furrowed in concentration. What if Joyful Heart had a sidekick? She suggested, looking up with excitement. Robert raised an eyebrow. That's a great idea. What kind of sidekick? She could have a little pet, a magical bird that helps her find people who need kindness, Amara said, her eyes shining with creativity. What do you think? I love it. That bird could represent freedom and joy, flying in to help others, Robert replied, feeling a sense of pride in her imagination. As they developed the characters further, Robert found himself not only mentoring Amara, but also rediscovering his own passion for storytelling. Inspired by her creativity, he began to write short narratives for each character, exploring their backstories and the adventures they would embark on together. The stories became a therapeutic outlet for both of them, allowing them to explore their feelings about the world and how they wanted to impact it. One evening, as they gathered their art supplies, Robert couldn't shake the feeling that they needed to share their work with a wider audience. "What if we organized an art show?" he proposed, excitement bubbling in his chest. "We could display your artwork and showcase our stories." Amara's eyes widened in disbelief. "An art show? Like for real?" "Yes. We could invite the community, and everyone can share their art. It would be a celebration of creativity and kindness," he said, envisioning the event in his mind. "We can show people that art has the power to change lives." Amara's face lit up with excitement. "Yes, I want to make posters for Joyful Heart, and we can have a big unveiling." The two spent the next few weeks planning the art show, working tirelessly to get everything ready. They enlisted the help of friends they had made during their workshops, forming a tight-knit group of young artists. Each participant was invited to contribute their work, and soon, the energy around the project grew into something larger than either of them had anticipated. As the date of the art show approached, the excitement was palpable. They transformed a small community center into a vibrant gallery, adorned with colorful posters, drawings, and the promise of creativity. Robert felt a rush of pride watching Amara take the lead, coordinating with her friends and ensuring everyone felt included. She had blossomed into a confident young leader, and it filled Robert with joy to witness her growth. On the day of the event, the community center buzzed with anticipation. Parents, friends, and community members filled the room, eager to support the young artists. As the doors opened, Amara stood by Robert, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and nerves. "Are you ready?" Robert asked, giving her a reassuring smile. "I think so. But what if they don't like my art?" she whispered, biting her lip. "Amara, your art is amazing. Just remember, this is a celebration of creativity and kindness. No matter what, you've already inspired so many people," Robert encouraged her. As the crowd gathered around, Amara stepped forward to introduce Joyful Heart and the characters they had created together. "Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to our art show. I'm so excited to share my superhero, Joyful Heart, with you." Her voice trembled slightly, but the passion behind her words shone through. Joyful Heart is all about spreading kindness and making people feel safe. She's not just a superhero. She represents all of us and our journey to lift each other up. Robert watched with pride as Amara spoke, her confidence blossoming before his eyes. She showed them her sketches, explaining the stories behind each character, and the room erupted with applause. The warmth of the community's support enveloped them, creating an atmosphere of love and acceptance. As the art show continued, children and parents moved around the room, admiring the artwork on display. Robert felt a surge of happiness as he noticed how the event sparked conversations among attendees. People shared their own stories of resilience, kindness, and creativity, united by the message that art can inspire change. Towards the end of the evening, Amara's eyes sparkled as she spotted the magical bird she had drawn as Joyful Heart's sidekick. "Look, Robert, someone is taking a picture of it." Robert turned to see a little girl admiring the drawing, her eyes wide with wonder. The girl's mother stood beside her, explaining how important it was to be kind and creative, just like the characters in Amara's art. It was a beautiful moment that reinforced the impact of their work. As the event drew to a close, Robert and Amara gathered their friends and supporters for a final round of applause. "Thank you all for coming. We're so grateful for your support," Amara said, her voice filled with emotion. "Let's keep creating together," Robert added, feeling the energy of the crowd. "Art has the power to connect us all, and we can continue to spread kindness in our community." After the applause faded, Amara turned to Robert, her eyes shining with joy. "We did it. I can't believe how amazing this turned out. I knew you could do it, he said, pulling her into a celebratory hug. You're a natural leader, Amara. As they packed up their artwork, Robert took a moment to reflect on how far they had come together. The boy who had once felt lost and disconnected was now part of something meaningful, a community of artists, united by a shared mission to uplift one another through creativity. That night, as Robert lay in bed, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had rediscovered his passion for storytelling and art through his friendship with Amara. The two had created something beautiful together, and he couldn't help but dream of the possibilities ahead. With the art show behind them, he began to brainstorm ideas for future projects. He envisioned workshops where artists could share their techniques, community events that fostered creativity, and outreach programs that provided art supplies to underserved children. He wanted to make a lasting impact, not just on Amara, but on the entire community. Over the next few weeks, Robert and Amara continued to work on Joyful Heart and began to explore new projects together. They created art kits to donate to local schools, started a blog to share their journey, and even planned an interactive workshop for kids to explore their creativity. Their friendship blossomed into a partnership grounded in support, encouragement, and a shared love for art. One day, while they were working on their blog, Robert received a notification. "Amara, look at this," he exclaimed, pointing at his phone. "Someone wants to interview us about our art show." Amara gasped, her eyes wide. "Really? What do they want to know?" "They want to hear about Joyful Heart and how we started this project together," he explained, feeling a rush of excitement. "I can't believe it. This is amazing," she squealed, jumping up and down. As they prepared for the interview, Amara felt a surge of nerves. "What if I mess up?" "Just be yourself, Amara. You have a powerful story to share, and people want to hear it," Robert reassured her. "You're the heart of this project." When the day of the interview arrived, they sat together in front of a camera, surrounded by their artwork. The interviewer asked them about their inspiration and the impact of art on their lives. "I want everyone to know that they can be brave, just like Joyful Heart," Amara said, her voice steady. "Art helps me express my feelings and connect with others. It's my superpower." Robert watched her with pride, knowing how far she had come. "And art has the power to change lives," he added. "It brings people together, creates empathy, and spreads kindness in ways we might not even realize." The interview was a success, and afterward, they received messages from viewers expressing how inspired they felt. Robert and Amara's message resonated with so many, reminding them of the importance of creativity and kindness in a world that often felt chaotic. As they wrapped up the day, Amara turned to Robert, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you for believing in me, Robert. I never thought I could do all of this." "I didn't believe in you. I knew you could do it," he replied, beaming at her. "Your talent and courage inspire me every day." And in that moment, as they sat surrounded by their art, Robert realized that their journey was just beginning. Together, they were creating a legacy of love, creativity, and empowerment that would inspire generations to come.